Good evening, everyone. Let me just welcome to the special meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. I'm calling this meeting to order and I'd like to start with the salute to the flag of our country. Ms. Facilonis. There it is. Huh. Okay, I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United
States
States of America,
to the republic
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
We're not exactly an a cappella choir.
That we are not. Welcome everyone to the special meeting. This meeting is obviously still being conducted in the Zoom mode, and our audio tape will be posted shortly after this meeting. And the item that we are called here tonight for a special meeting, we have two items on our agenda. They are actually connected. So I'm going to move to our agenda, and I'll call on Ms. Tarkington on behalf of the Budget Committee, if you would get our first item before us. Are you there, Ms. Tarkington?
Yes, this is a request by the Board of Education, ED 13, Board of Education. What? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm not on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
She doesn't hear us.
Okay, you can hear me.
Yes.
Oh, so as I said, this is a request. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a request ED 13, the Board of Education. Board of Education, $2,597,912 for an interim appropriation for the North Miami school repairs.
Okay, that item is in front of us, and that's on behalf of the Budget Committee report. Ms. Tarkington?
I don't know what's happening.
We can hear you fine, Leslie, if you can hear us.
Yes. Chair Peter Bernstein provided an overview. I'm sorry? I can hear you. You can't hear me?
Yeah, we hear
Hey,
you.
we can hear
We
you.
hear you fine. Don't interrupt yourself. You're good to go.
I guess you can. Chair Peter Bernstein provided an overview. The committee discussed with schools administration the requested appropriation for the repairs and additional alternate space related costs. Total construction costs, including a 15% contingency, totaled $2,880,000. As total construction costs approved was $1,697,000. This is a requested increase for construction of $1,183,000. Components of the construction related requests were considered inclusive of the base bill and add alternates to the bid of $1,411,000 and anticipated change orders of $334,000 that were not included in the bid package, but are inclusive in the numbers. In addition, the committee talked extensively about the alternate space related costs of $1,773,000, a request of $1,652,000. The committee voted on a motion to approve the full $2,597,912 appropriation, and that motion passed 4-0-0.
Okay, discussion on ED 11. We'll use the hand raising normally. I'm not seeing any hands on ED 11.
Let's go to the vote.
Okay, Facilonis' hand is up.
Yes, I just wanted to say that that tonight this should be really looked on as a history lesson for this board. Some of us on this board wanted to follow a process and finance the project the way that we have usually done financing, while others on this board wanted to issue basically a blank check. Unfortunately, in following the process, there has been a pattern of vilifying any board or board member who has done their job. We've had criticism from the Board of Education And both the chair and the vice chair fueled the fire in their op-ed, stating that the majority funding of the project, of the immediate remediation, means that there was a specter of meaningful delays in the project. The superintendent agreed, and in her fact sheet also basically
Point
pointed.
of order, point of order. Mr. Mason, this is not speaking directly to the appropriation.
I
and
am
think
speaking
these
directly, and I will speak, and I will get to my point in a minute. So excuse me, I am just
Well,
stating.
excuse me, but I
facts
share the
stated.
point of order. This borders on an ad hominem attack and a rudeness that I feel is inappropriate and unprovoked by anything that's before the body at this time. It's only going to
This
produce
process
a point
worked.
and counterpoint that is not going to be at the standing of what is normally done at this board.
Our process worked, is what I'm trying to get at. Our process worked. We are now.
Why is any of this comment, excuse me, but the point of order is still
Because-
before us. Why is any of this
imagine-
commentary
I
required?
am saying, imagine the criticism this board would have had if we approved the 8.1 million by a 12-0 vote. I'm
No, I
sure-
cannot. To me, that would have been entirely the appropriate way to proceed. Are we going to have that
Okay.
debate again? Because
Are-
I'm entirely prepared for that debate, even though it's extraneous to what's before us.
Let me know when everyone's done. We allow our members to make comments. We do need to keep our comments towards the item. Okay, and I would
I am
ask
making
everyone
it-
do that.
When
I'm
does that
making my
begin?
comments to the item.
No, the
Okay.
comments were not to the item. The comments were to what
The
you
process.
perceive as a personal attack on your comments from the last meeting.
No, I am talking about the process. And the process worked.
What's more, you're taking the dismay that parents were expressing over the danger of delay that you were provoking.
And what
you're
I'm saying is
characterizing
our
those as
process
being
works.
remarks that we have made about you. We have not made any of those remarks.
The
Okay,
process
before
works.
I
is all
start-
I'm saying.
So
Before I
this
start
is
muting,
unproductive.
okay, that is an opinion too, Mr. Raymer. Okay, so here's where we're at. I think I will share a thought with you that is very vital for the town of Greenwich as it pertains to this item. Okay, and I will not say it in any derogatory way. This is a great item. It's been through a lot of process, but process is what the town is about and how we got here. The idea right before us now, okay, we've talked about everything in this town about how we follow process. This whole item is a great process. By following process, we've taken a project and we've found the true scope of the cost. We may have a little discussion on a few of the items, but for the most part, through following a process, we have done that. This is exactly what all the boards and commissions need to do. Every branch of our government has an opinion. In this particular one, I'm proud to where we got to. I'm proud we're moving this along. I see this item going along. I think we have to edit our resolution a little bit. I think that's where the comments are directed. I think we're all trying to get to the right thing. I think there has been a frustration level in this item. I really do. And I think that the residents in town expect the finance board to be the finance board, the board of ed to be the board of ed, and so on and so on and so on. And I think that's what the comment is about. I don't have any negative intent in my comments, but I think it's important that we understand that when we follow process, we get things correct. We do a really good job when we follow the process. And I think that's the conversation here. I think that's the reason for the conversation. So I'm going to ask Ms. Vassilotis to stick with the item. I'm going to ask other members not to interrupt. I will let anybody say anything they would like to say. And by the way, we too are humans. And when things are said, and we're allowed to, we didn't, because you become a BET member, doesn't mean you can't be a human. Doesn't mean you can't have things that bother you. That's part of it. But we're working towards creating a better process. That's what we're trying to do. And that's what all of us, and I'm not speaking for me, I'm speaking for all of us. So I ask everybody for patience. I do ask to stay on the subject to get to this 2.5, whatever the number is, and I ask us to do that. So Ms. Vessels, if you could stay to the item, that would be what we need to do.
My only question is on the funding of the lease of the facility, which we don't have any information on. We have been asked to trust the Board of Ed that their finances are correct. Well, I did ask the town attorney what the total cost of the contract is. And the total cost of the contract as it sits today is $765,000. So 850 is not off the mark. I did also ask when they might expect a full signing of the contract, and they indicated that it would be within 2 weeks. So they anticipate that the contract for the alternate facility would be signed within the next 2 weeks. I'm, a little astonished that we did get basically numbers without any supporting documentation. But that seems to be the way that this board will be going, and I will be voting for the full appropriation. I'll leave it at that.
Next hand up, Ms. Moriarty.
Yes, I want to address the fact that there is a process that was followed by 6 members of this board, but there is an alternate process that could have been followed that would have worked also with equal transparency and clarity if this board had approved the initial request by the Board of Education with a condition on the amount. This board would have had the same information we have today to be able to release the funds, and it would have provided greater assurance to the community that this project would have proceeded uninterrupted. That other process with using conditions is a long-standing process that this board has employed, and the RTM has agreed with that approach because they grant the authority. If the RTM did not want to grant $8 million, they could have reduced the amount. Regarding the information presented by the Board of Education, I think they went to great lengths to answer the questions that were provided in advance by the Budget Committee. We had a long discussion today at the Budget Committee, and I believe the Board of Ed has justified the initial request, and I will be supporting the full amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moriarty. Mr. Raymer's hand is up next.
So I think it needs to be pointed out that had the $8.1 million been approved when it was presented, you would have seen the same quote from Wernet Construction, and the contract signed would be in the same amount. The difference being that we probably already would have a signed contract with Wernet. We probably would have been further along in the organizing of the alternative space and the arrangements for the transportation. Whether or not any of these things in fact produce delay in moving the students back to school is an unknown. We're going to have to see. But clearly the path that was employed by the voting majority with the tie-breaking vote is the path that is the most likely to be producing delay. And whether or not there's going to be delay is something that's going to have to be determined in the future. As to whether or not the unhappy remarks that came from the parents in response to the path that was taken by the voting majority, these are not things that we instilled or incited from those parents. They came genuinely from the parents themselves. If you're unhappy with the response that you got, then maybe you should have considered the path that you've taken. But for you to be mischaracterizing the intent or the wisdom with which the minority on this board proceeded was an inappropriate thing for you to be raising in the way in which you raised it at this meeting. And I think we're due an apology from you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Raymer. Ms. Fessler has already spoken. Mr. Eric, I'll come back to, I want everybody to have a chance to speak. Mr. Erickson's hand is up.
Yes, I would like to get back to the item at hand. I mean, we could debate this, but that's not why we're here. Greenwich Public Schools does have a great motto, let go and move on. So we are where we are. And I appreciate the information that Ms. Vasiliotis just relayed, but I'm wondering, since Mr. Bernstein and I think Mr. O'Keefe are on, if we should just get a quick update from them as to where things stand in legal, what's the anticipated contract signing, just to hear it from them straight from the horse's mouth, as they say, if that's appropriate.
That is appropriate. I'd like to go through our speakers first, and then I can call on any member that they would like, and we can move them up and have that conversation. Mr. Drake, his hand is up.
Yes, I'll be very brief and I'll try to be cooperative. People ask, just indulge me a minute. People ask, what's it like serving on the BET with those Republicans and Democrats? My answer is always 90% of it is nonpartisan and 10% of it, yeah, it comes down to 6 to 6. You know, on April 16th, we had a vote for prudence, for patiently gathering facts before appropriating the citizens' money, for being more analytical than emotional. And that vote avoided appropriating an extra $3.4 million when it turns out there was no need. So, you know, the standard of care of prudence and spending the citizens' money carefully is one that all 12 of us share. That's clear. We all think about this in the same way. So my recommendation is let's resume our cooperative approach. It works 90% of the time. It worked when we set the mill rate. And that's my personal commitment to the process. I hope you join me. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss, Rod, your hand is up.
Right, thanks. Can we just move to the item? This is tiresome and frankly annoying. Let's move forward with the item. As Ms. Erickson so aptly said a moment ago, time is precious and let's get on with it.
Ms. Fessler, this is the last hand I see.
Just while I appreciate what Mr. Raymer said, that the path that we chose would only delay, I don't believe that you're correct, Mr. Raymer. An RFP still had to be issued. They still had to follow their process, the purchasing process. A contract would not have yet been signed because we would have still had to have had a special meeting had we conditioned it. And also the appropriation was much less than what we originally were told. So the process worked and we are where we are. And I would just issue caution in the future.
Okay, let me just lower that hand. Mr. Deuce's hand is up, followed by Ms. Cruiser.
I'm going to paraphrase Mr. Weisbrod. Can we call the question?
That would cut off debate, which we normally don't do. That would cut off the opportunity for Ms. Cruiser to speak and any Board of Eds members to answer any questions that we might have.
It requires a 2/3 vote besides.
I would ask you to rethink that motion and let's finish our speakers as we normally do in our normal.
Okay, well, let's. I'm happy to withdraw that, but let's be mindful that this is a topic that we have had a lot of debate on already. I like to limit if we can.
So why did we get into it?
Ms. Cruz, Mr. Raymer, did you say something, Mr. Raymer? That wasn't. Okay.
Move on.
Thank you. Ms. Cruiser, your hand is up. Her hand was up. Uh-oh.
I think she's frozen. So while she logs back on, potentially.
There she is. There she is. Ms. Cruiser, you have the floor.
She may still be frozen.
Perhaps
very
Ms.
deliberate.
Erickson's
Her
question
hand's
can
not
be.
raised. Could we, let's
Yeah,
make,
I lowered her hand. Her hand was, please, everybody, just, I have it, relax. Ms. Cruiser, you are up. She does look to be frozen. She is muted right now. And I don't want to, I lowered her hand. I don't want to skip over her opportunity.
Miriam could rejoin. Miriam,
She
if you
did, I
could
think.
press rejoin, please.
There was a question directed to the Board of Education. Perhaps they can proceed.
Okay, just please remind me to come back to Ms. Cruiser. I want her to have the opportunity. Mr. O'Keefe, you're here with us. Mr. Bernstein and Dr. Chodes.
So let me just kick off, Mike, by thanking you all for scheduling the meeting, the Budget Committee for scheduling their meeting without haste. We appreciate that. We're looking forward to meeting with the RTM later in the week. There was a question about the where we stand on the alternate site. I actually spoke with Town Council this afternoon. She emailed comments over to the attorney for the other side on Friday afternoon. She was going to follow up later this afternoon to see where things stood. We had some suggestions from our town legal department. So I'm not sure that 2 weeks was her measure. She is hoping to get this done as soon as possible. They understand the need to get this arranged. That parents are anxious to know what's going to transpire for their kids in the fall. So that is moving forward full course.
Okay. Just, this is a question that just came up this afternoon. I don't think the BET needs the answer to this, but I think you've got a busy week coming up with the RTM. This, the BET doesn't approve leaseholds. We approve the financing, but I think, Peter, just maybe have that answer in case that get asked at the RTM level.
I've actually already got that answer. I've spoken with Attorney Wadler, who has spoken with Barbara Schellenberg, and previous to that, Vin Marino. These would not need to go anywhere beyond the Board of Ed.
Okay.
So you or the RTM. If we were leasing out our property, leasing a town property, yes, then it would come to you. It would go to the RTM.
Okay, I didn't know the answer to it, but it was a quick, Peter, why I have you here. Some of the dialogue you hear and the frustration is everybody's trying to, and sometimes I think people are trying to do more than their board's authority and they're trying to help out, and it causes some frustration. But that was a question that I had out there. Ms. Erickson, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions while we have the Board of Ed here with us?
Mrs. Cruiser's back online.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I have to just, I'm sorry, Ms. Cruiser, I called on you and it froze up. If you
Oh,
would.
no, it's no problem. Sorry. I chastised everyone in my house for being on devices, and now I think I have a clear path. So, and I think that was the God saying, move on. But I just, and we did move on, but I'm sorry. I just felt the need to say that the one bit that I struggle a little bit with the conversation of, by following process, the number that is now before us is a much lesser amount. I'm still struck by, what would have been the true risk and downside of us having appropriated the extra amount. The truth is we would have just bonded for less. And that would have been the end of the story. So there's still a way, there's still a process by which, the downside, the true risk can be captured. And I just think that's a false narrative. And I needed to make that comment, but let's move on and talk to the issue at hand.
Ms. Hess, your hand is up.
Yeah, I know we're trying to move on, but I think we would be sitting here having this conversation tonight, even if we had actually done the condition. And I think what we've done here is we moved very fast after the Board of Ed had their meeting last week to have the meeting very quickly to approve this tonight. So I appreciate that we followed process, and I'm obviously going to support this motion, and we were all very supportive of doing what we need to do to get these children back at school. And at the end of the day, that's what we care about. Let's get this fixed, and let's get these children back into school. So thank you.
Okay, I do not see any other hands. I see no other hands. Mr. Drake, would you do the vote on, I forgot the item number.
ED 13.
I'm sorry, 1 second, Mr. Drake. Mr. Geiger, is the project number on our call the same project number as April?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. O'Keefe, that means on this particular project number, it's going to show with 2 influx of cash for 1 same project number. That's what I was just clarifying. Okay.
We did submit it at ED 13 though.
No, I'm not talking about that number. I'm talking about the actual Munis number.
Gotcha.
I want to
Okay.
make sure they're consistent. That's what I was just asking, Roland. That's what that question was for. All
Okay.
right, Mr. Drake, if you would.
This is a vote in favor of ED 13. Ms.
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Mr. Weisbrod,
Yes.
Mr. Deuce,
Yes.
Mr. Raymer,
Yes.
Ms. Pasliotis.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Mason,
Yes.
Ms. Tarkington,
Yes.
Ms. Moriarty,
Yes.
Ms. Crummett,
Yes.
Ms. Hess,
Yes.
Ms. Cruiser.
Yes.
That was unanimous.
Okay. That brings us to our next item on the agenda. Ms. Tarkington, on behalf of the Budget Committee. If any of the other, no, just the Budget Committee. Ms. Tarkington?
Yes, I bring forth FI 7 from the Finance Department. $2,597,912 a bonding resolution for the North Miami school repairs.
Okay, that's on behalf of the Budget Committee. Can we get a report on that? And I know we had some editing and we might have some possible revisions. So if you would, Ms. Tarkington?
Yes, the committee discussed the bonding resolution and whether certain alternate space-related costs should be separately financed as operating or through the capital non-recurring account or bonded, with substantial input from Controller Peter Minarski and Budget Director Roland Geiger. The committee suggested several minor changes or script to what were apparently Scribner's errors to the wording of the budget resolution. The committee voted on a motion to approve the full $2,587,912 bonding resolution, and that motion passed 4-0-0.
If I may start with a question. So I was there at the Budget Committee meeting. Those errors are included in the.
Those errors are, though, they were fixed and they are included in what's being presented to the BET this evening.
Got it. Are there any other amendments to the bonding resolution that are required? Then I have two questions. I just want to, so we stay on the right order. The first question is, do we have any other amendments? And the second question is the bonding resolution from last month. So I just want to separate those. Do we have any more amendments to the resolution before us now? I see none. I see no hands up. Okay. Real quick question. The amendments that were done to this resolution, does that trigger anything different from last month's bonding resolution for the same item?
Are you talking to me, Mr.?
I don't know. I'm asking either.
So
the
we
controller.
received an email that said basically that our bonding attorney, Mr. Panico, said that those are basically Scribner's errors and we needed to do nothing further.
Okay, that answers that.
I concur.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. You and Roland. Good to see you. Mr. Raymer's hand is up.
Just that I'd like the minutes of the meeting to reflect that the controller reported that after consultation with bond counsel, the analogous changes can be made to the earlier resolution so that both of them will read the same, showing the corrections that we're making today.
Okay, that Miss.
That's really to Miss Sedor.
Yeah, I think she'll recognize that in the minutes. Further discussion on the financing resolution. Mr. Drake, I see no hands.
We'll take a vote in a moment. I just want to be sure I understood what Mr. Raymer said. When we adopt this, is that retroactively changing the prior bonding resolution?
No, Pete will probably say it better than I will, but let me just take a shot at it. Pete made contact with the bond counsel and reviewed with him the changes, and bond counsel indicated to Pete that those are mere Scribner's errors, which can be made by Pete to what was passed at our last meeting without there being any further action or vote by the BET.
Okay,
do I have that right, Pete?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, thanks.
One second, Mr. Drake. You know, we have the challenge we have here is this resolution has to leave us, and by Wednesday night has to be in front of the RTM. So I just want to make sure that all the materials that we have for both these items, by the way, are in the proper location, circulated for the RTM members for their committee deliberations and their full meeting deliberations. So I guess, Roland, maybe we just have to make sure we get all of this posted. And I'm sure the Board of Ed's going to have to get that over to the RTM.
Mr. Chairman, I think I saw the distribution of a call that has the resolution attached to it, and that resolution will not reflect these changes. So I think what you're asking the budget director to do is to take care to see that the moderator receives a copy of the amended resolution for him to have distributed to the RTM membership before Wednesday.
That sounds like it.
And I would just add that you, Pete, when you do that, you send the clean and the red line version so that they can see the differences.
Yes, okay.
Okay. All right.
If you like, we'll vote.
Mr. Drake.
So we're voting on FI7, the bonding resolution. Ms. Cruiser,
Yes.
Ms. Hess,
Yes.
Ms. Crummey,
Yes.
Ms. Moriarty,
Yes,
Ms. Tarkenton,
yes,
Mr. Mason.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Bastiodis,
Yes.
Mr. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Deuce,
Yes.
Mr. Weisbrod,
Yes,
Ms. Erickson.
yes.
That was unanimous.
Okay. Let me just stop one thing here. Okay, that leaving us nothing else on our agenda for this evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
By Mr. Weisbrod,
Second.
by Mr. Deuce, Ms. Moriarty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Good night, everyone. We'll see you Wednesday, Thursday night, probably.
Thank you.
good night.